Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. Robinhood going a little old school. The market trading app that has exploded, allowing buys and sells anywhere on the go, has a new tool with a more classic approach. CEO Vlad Tenev explains.
We weren't really a player in that space, but last night we announced a new platform which we're calling Robinhood Legend.
Plus, Robinhood's new AI project, because what's available now, well, it's just not good enough.
If they're going to be used for anything mission critical, including for financial services use cases in aerospace, automotive, then we need a much higher standard for correctness.
Facebook and Instagram's parent company making new moves to combat online blackmail of social media's youngest users. Meta safety head Antigone Davis joins us.
We are highly focused right now on financial sextortion because there's been a rise of it recently.
Plus, Kamala Harris and the Fox's den, credit card debt rising among 40 and 50-somethings.
I thought they were millennials. You know what? I give up.
And Uber looking to build the everything app.
You're just going to talk to your phone in the future. You're going to talk to some AI agent, and the AI agent is going to do everything.
It is Thursday, October 17th, 2024. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We are live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernen and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Meantime, this is a fascinating story. We are watching shares right now of Expedia. This after in Financial Times, the FT, reporting that Uber has explored a possible bid for the travel booking website. The report says that Uber approached advisors in recent months after the idea of acquiring Expedia was broached by a third party. It says a focus of the discussion was on the role of Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi, who, if you remember, served as Expedia's CEO from 2005, 2017. He also remains on the company's board. That likely means any approach would be friendly, and Khosrowshahi would then recuse himself from the deal discussions. The report says Uber's interest was at a very early stage and no formal approach or discussions have been made with Expedia. But the other thing to remember is Dara is one of the great proteges of the legendary Barry Diller.
Yeah.
Barry Diller, of course, is chairman of Expedia. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of
makes you think that it's much more likely
synergies here. Synergies by people. Right, I don't know if there's synergies
that's what I wanted
in
to
the
ask.
actual business.
Yeah, what's the? I don't.
Those two guys are pretty smart.
If you want to make a super app,
there.
if you want to make a super app, but they don't seem like there's a lot. Then I don't see what's the overlap exactly. You need to take an Uber to the hotel.
It's all travel related.
Right. It's all once you're in this world.
Is Uber, but Uber, I don't think of Uber as mostly travel.
I didn't think of Uber as being Uber Eats and food delivery at one point too.
No,
I will say,
but
if
neither one of
Dara
those is
and
travel.
Barry think it's a good idea, I don't know.
I mean, but go back to the super app idea.
Well,
go back to the Amazon of travel. If you can be the Amazon of travel, where you just go there, because that's how you're going to get your flight. It's
but
how you're going to get your...
you don't need Uber to be the Amazon of travel.
What'd you say?
You don't need the Uber part to be the Amazon of travel.
Well, no. Think about the many, many millions of people who have the Uber app already. Much more than would have had Expedia app, for example.
Right. That's true.
Who are use this thing every single day in some meaningful way in their life, in the same way that you'd use an Amazon app every single day in your life. And therefore, if this becomes the place where you go for travel, and it's, by the way, Airbnb in a way is trying to create experiences. They're trying to create other types of travel-like moments. There is going to be a race in this world.
That's what I would say,
for all of that eventually.
To try and get bigger and to try and be the place that people think.
Maybe. Look, and maybe you don't need them all to be together. I'm not saying you have to.
Interesting to watch the shares. Expedia shares up by about 8%. Uber down by 3 1/3. On this consideration.
It's interesting.
It is.
It's an interesting thought experiment at the minimum. Whether it goes anywhere, I have no idea.
But I think the initial knee-jerk is what you said right away, is that maybe there's synergy between the people, but not necessarily between the businesses. But then you can sort of strain to try to find, if you use the super app idea and what you said, I mean, everybody does have Uber, I guess. Everybody's got, Google Maps. Should they buy?
Well, so to me, the argument against it is actually an AI argument, which is I actually long-term think that
Not the
all
right
of
time
these
to do it. Yeah.
all of these apps
see how
are
it
going to be
shakes out.
disintermediated
Yes,
in many
see
ways
how it shakes
because
out.
the truth is that you're just going to talk to your phone in the future. You're going to talk to some AI agent, and the AI agent is going to do everything. Now, some people would say, well,
For your travel, you mean for your
for everything,
planning
meaning,
your trip?
Well, planning your trip, but planning your Amazon. Meaning, in the future, if this all works the way it's supposed to, you're going to say, I need toilet paper, and it's not going to necessarily go get it from you. It's going to get you the toilet paper you want at the best price from wherever.
Why'd you come up with that?
I thought it was a sort of very basic item.
Nothing.
Go with batteries.
You're not having a rough day or anything.
Go with batteries. How about
Everything's
that?
okay?
Everything's great.
But I will say it's hard to shake. I don't like the AI results that I'm served up a lot of times when I'm looking at stuff. I want to dig a little deeper and do my own research. Somehow I feel like I'm going to get bought by the advertisers.
But the idea is that I think over time that you're going to use this and it's going to usurp the apps themselves. I mean, you're not going to necessarily. This is where brands are going to potentially be challenged. Yeah. No, be challenged actually, because you're going to say to yourself, you're just going to pick
I think
from
it'll
wherever.
be a place where brands matter because
Some people think that, some people think the opposite.
Yeah, not for everybody, but I think if you're a really great brand, I think you will stand out and consumers will still look for you. I think maybe the brand is more important than ever because otherwise you're going to get commoditized in this entire world.
I just don't want the agent to keep saying I didn't get that. Are we sure that's not going to happen?
What'd you say?
No.
Brand for physical items, brand for service, maybe not. And the reason is that when you think about an Uber, it's actually, it could be a Lyft driver, it could be an Uber driver. They are the same people. Yeah. So the idea that it's a brand is sort of a fallacy.
But that's where they've made the mistake, is allowing people to be both. You're not a brand if you're just a card in the window.
Maybe, but I'm just saying that's this whole idea of a marketplace. There are homes that are available on VRBO. The same homes are available on Airbnb. So the idea that the brand is anything is it's an interface. It's a UI to something.
For a service, maybe you're not a brand.
And therefore, the AI piece of it becomes significantly more important.
Although I still like Uber better. I don't know why. You're right. It makes no sense. All right, Vice President Harris sat down with Bret Baier on Fox News yesterday. How the interview went depends on your political perspective, but it was certainly the most contentious interview of her candidacy.
Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years, so what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on,
Madam
you
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about.
The vice president addressed her view of the economy.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as president of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward.
Harris said her presidency would not be a continuation of the Biden presidency. Not sure if you guys saw all of this, what you thought.
I watched every moment of it.
I saw it.
I thought it was a pretty good interview. I thought it was actually a pretty good interview for her. I thought it was a pretty good interview for him.
Yeah. Everybody's got I don't know, I saw it with my own two eyes. What your eyes see, obviously that's how we introed it.
It's a Rorschach
it
test.
sees different things. I'm not going to try and convince anyone of anything anymore. We all saw the same thing. I did text. I mean, I know Brett, play golf with him. I texted him, and I thought it was. I mean, I said that. This is what I actually said. I said before last night, Mariano Rivera was the only guy that got a unanimous vote on his first poll for Hall of Fame. But I just thought maybe I was just so gratified that someone finally gave her some questions to answer.
I thought they were good questions.
They were good questions. None of them got answered, but at least he.
Well, I also think he didn't allow. I will say this: he did not allow her to answer the questions.
She never was answering the substance of the question, though. Just to divert to Donald Trump is what kind of? Why should he let her answer the question? I thought right out of the gate. Why did you get rid of the 90 executive orders? Why did you open the border and let 13 million people in? Why? And we'll never get an answer. But everybody got to see whatever it was that they wanted to see. But finally, Fox isn't going to go back and take out the bad part and not release the transcript and sterilize it because they have a horse in the game. That's not going to happen this time. We all saw what we all saw.
What's interesting is seeing where the candidates are turning where they may not have before. I mean, she's done a series of interviews.
And I think you got to give her a lot of credit for actually doing the interview.
I agree, but I think it's who knows what it's based on. But I thought it was funny by the end. There were supposedly 4 people all at once going, "Stop!" Brett said that there were 4.
For Harris.
Yeah.
He was saying that they were trying to wrap the interview. I saw that.
Wrap. Mm-hmm. Well, we get that too.
We do.
No, you get
it's pretty frequent.
You get people doing that. But
and by the way, that's often their handlers who are doing that, not them.
Not
who
them.
Want to get off.
Exactly.
Right. And a new survey out this morning shows that Gen Xers in their 40s and 50s, I thought they were millennials. Are those you know what? I give up. Are more likely than any other age group. Oh, that's Gen Z. Okay, I got it. More likely than any other age group to be maxed out on a credit card in the past 2.5 years, and it's not on low-income borrowers hitting the limit. High earners are also maxing out. Sharon Epperson joins us now with more. Okay, 40s and 50s.
Yes, I'll tell you about the generations in just
Tell
one
me about
moment.
the Z and the millennials and where we all fit in.
You got it. Okay. You got it. This new Bankrate survey of more than 3,000 cardholders found that overall 1 in 5 or 20% had spent up to the credit limit they had on a card at some point between March 2022 when the Fed started raising interest rates and the second week of September of this year before they began lowering rates. Meanwhile, the percentage of Gen Xers, those ages 44 to 59 who maxed out their cards in that time, was far higher, 27%. That's more than millennials, baby boomers, or Gen Z. Across the board, inflation was the main reason for relying on their credit card for basic expenses. And being a caregiver is also contributing to Gen X being tapped out. Nearly half of parents with children under 18 have maxed out their credit cards or come close, and 39% of parents with children 18 and older have done the same. And while the lowest earners are most likely to hit their limit, more than a quarter of cardholders with 6-figure incomes have maxed out too. Now, for many Americans, this financial stress is showing up in missed or late payments. Maxed out borrowers are more likely to be delinquent. A third of maxed out borrowers have gone delinquent with their payments in the last year, compared to less than a quarter per year before the pandemic. That's according to the New York Fed. It is overwhelming to deal with large credit card balances, but you can try to negotiate with creditors, consolidate your debt, and consult with a nonprofit credit counselor to get a better handle on your financial situation.
All right, so you're going to explain everything? Okay, so what about boomer? No boomer. Is there a single boomer that's maxed out?
Yes. Every group has a number, but it's just that Gen Xers have the most.
You're playing. I thought you were playing hip hop.
That's how upset you are about this.
So upset.
So upset that people are maxing out.
I did
not understanding.
By maxing out, does that mean that they can't pay down their debt? Like,
yeah,
who's carrying the largest debt? Because I might max my card out, but I pay it off every month.
Right. So people are
just because
delinquent.
I get the points.
Can't build any good credit.
Exactly.
Like that.
But that's what the delinquency
I put everything
trend
on my
is.
credit card because I have like a 1.5%.
But if you got to leave a little balance, so that helps with your credit.
Well, I've got multiple credit cards I can go to if I want to, but I've
all maxed out.
No, I don't. Okay, they don't
what this
max
story's
out,
about, I think.
I pay it off immediately.
Right.
I never carry a balance. I never pay interest on any of this stuff.
So I've maxed out cards too, or a card too, and that's the key, is to making sure that you pay it off
But that's what I would love to see the statistics on.
So that's what the delinquency is showing, that this rise in delinquency among maxed out borrowers means that many of them are missing a payment or are late on a payment, mostly on the credit card bill payment, but also on utilities, also on rent. So people are hurting and they're using their credit card for basic expenses.
There was some story yesterday that there are a certain percentage of people that don't think they can make their next maintenance payment.
Right.
Not like Becky paying everything off, but whatever the minimum is coming up for the first time in a while, they're worried about even having that.
Exactly.
And that would
that's
be
why they're missing the payments. That's why they're late on the payments. That's why they're going into delinquency. And as we're going into this holiday season where people are supposed to be spending more.
This is a bad time for that, yeah. Pumpkins,
what does that mean?
And then Christmas.
Christmas, right.
Well, nobody's going to be getting those big Reese's, double candy. We used to go to that house specifically. You're going to get one
candy bars,
like a Tootsie Roll where you get a big bag of them and they put one in. It's
or a little box of raisins.
I walked up here for that, or an apple. Remember apples? I kind of want an apple.
You couldn't.
But all of this just shows how tapped out people are feeling right now. And every time they say, yes, we're seeing the market up, but that does not feel like anything to me.
It's weird.
I don't feel that at all.
GDP, stock market.
People are not feeling
unemployment or employment. All right, thanks, Sharon.
Sure.
Perfect. Great news.
Tease will be next.
Still to come, Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev. He has made his name in mobile trading, but he set his sights on bigger things, literally your screen.
We've done very well on mobile historically among younger people and folks that primarily trade and invest on mobile, but about half of the market is on desktop web.
Plus, Tenev's project you probably have never heard of, an artificial intelligence tool he says does more accurate math than those already out there. Squawk Pod will be right back. This is Squawk Pod.
You are watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Becky Quick along with Joe Kernen and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Robinhood announcing a new suite of products for advanced traders. Joining us right now, first on CNBC from the first ever Hood Summit in Miami, is Robinhood co-founder and CEO Vlad Tenev. Vlad, it's great to see you this morning. I want to hear all about what the summit is about, but also want to talk about some of these new features that you've implemented in the product for advanced traders. It feels like a major shift from where you started and what you were doing. What's the impetus for this?
Well, first of all, the Hood Summit, it's the biggest event we've ever held for active traders. It's here in Miami, and we had 800 of our best customers joining us for the event. We announced some products. We had over 1.7 million people joining on live stream as well. And really, it's just to mark 2 years of progress from us becoming a great app for beginning investors all the way to an advanced platform that serves the needs of sophisticated active traders as well.
And so that's what I was going to ask in terms of just how you're thinking about the market for your product today versus the way I think maybe people thought about the product before.
Yeah, there's three things that we're focused on. The first thing is being the market leader in active trading, growing market share. We've done very well on mobile historically among younger people and folks that primarily trade and invest on mobile. But about half of the market is on desktop web, where you have more real estate on the screen. You can do more sophisticated things like have charts and data and the trading in the same interface. And so we weren't really a player in that space. But last night we announced a new platform, which we're calling Robinhood Legend, which is the first platform on desktop that we built specifically for the needs of active traders. And the feedback was really positive. I mean, really, there hasn't been a great trading platform built with modern technology and with charts integrated until we announced Robinhood Legend. So we had 1,000 people sign up and get access to the product in the first 40 seconds after we opened up signups, which I thought was pretty amazing.
I want to ask you about two other trends that are taking place among retail investors and whether it's a there are markets you want to play in. One is, we keep talking about the election, as you might imagine. There are folks who now want to bet on the election. You can technically actually do it right now, even in the U.S. Before you couldn't do it. Do you think that's a good development, a bad development? How do you think about the betting markets for political purposes?
Look, I think I'm very pro-markets, pro-free market, and I think that there's legitimate geopolitical risk to hedge, and investors should have access to all the tools at their disposal to hedge their risk appropriately. So yeah, very much in favor of more access to markets and more clear information. I think that the great thing about these markets is people have money on the line as well. So you can kind of trust that they care much more about the result, and those results should be much more reliable in a sense than just simple polling.
So I don't know if you saw, but Stan Druckenmiller yesterday made a comment about another trade that he thinks may be indicative of where this presidential campaign could go, which is the crypto trade, the trade around Bitcoin. I'm curious about how you see crypto moving. Obviously, Bitcoin has moved higher, and whether you think that's a sign of former President Trump gaining a lead in this election, because there's a view that he may be more pro-crypto. At the same time, I think there's a sense that Vice President Harris may be more open to crypto than she used to be. I don't know if you see a massive distinction between the two.
Both candidates seem like they're in favor of the U.S. being a leader in the space, which I think is a welcome departure from the status quo. So it could have an effect. You know, the markets could be reacting to the political sphere, but also we're seeing broad-based optimism right now across multiple asset classes. I don't think it's just crypto, and you know, markets shift up and down. The scenario can change very, very quickly. But right now, when we talk to our traders, many of whom are at this event, they're expressing a lot of optimism. You know, they believe the future is going to be better than the past. America is kind of at the intersection of all of these new trends and innovation. If you're looking at electric vehicles, artificial intelligence, there's a lot of potential there. And they right. see America and the U.S. stock market as the best way to kind of capitalize on that.
I don't know if you saw the story or if you can add any intelligence to this. Politico reported that your chief legal officer, Dan Gallagher, has been floated as a possible pick for SEC chair if former President Trump were to become the president.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Dan has been a great team member. He's been continues to be amazing to work with, has been responsible in large part for us becoming such a great regulated player and up-leveling there. So, of course, we'd love for him to continue doing that. So I have mixed feelings myself about these reports and rumors. But also, you know, I appreciate that, you know, we need people that have extreme regulatory knowledge, but also care about innovation and America being a leader in financial services and cryptocurrency and all of these related enterprises.
Vlad, the other question I was just going to ask you is, you know, outside of Robinhood, of leading Robinhood, you funded and have founded this AI startup, Harmonic, which is effectively doing math problems in AI. And I don't know how much the audience even knows about that project and that effort, and thought maybe you could tell us about it and just where it stands and what's going to happen to it.
Yeah, in a nutshell, we think that it's going to be important to create artificial intelligence models that have the ability to identify when they're correct and actually prove output information that's verifiably correct. There's a big problem with hallucinations of these models. Models are getting better and better, but if they're going to be used for anything mission critical, including for financial services use cases in aerospace, automotive, then we need a much higher standard for correctness. And imbuing mathematical proof and mathematical problem solving, we believe, is the best way to guarantee that.
How good or bad do you think these other models are? I mean, if yours can do math and you think these other models can't, what's holding them back and what are you doing differently?
Yeah, I mean, this is it's sort of like a area of frontier research into the field. Basically, the way Harmonic trains these models is through something called reinforcement learning. And reinforcement learning relies on having a reward for the output. So basically, just like humans learn and get rewards from our environment, if we're doing the correct things, we make friends, eventually we pass on our genes to the next generation. AI models getting rewards is a great way to train these models with whether the output is right or wrong. And the great thing about math is, unlike English, it's sort of like black or white, binary, whether output is correct. So you can actually create a reward signal that's much stronger and more reliable than just language.
Vlad, I want to thank you for joining us. Congratulations on the summit and the new product, and we look forward to following your progress as always.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you, guys.
Next on Squawk Pod, Meta is rolling out a new effort to protect teens on Instagram from sextortion. The company's head of safety, Antigone Davis, explains why it's partially about Meta's own technology and partially about teamwork across big tech.
The other thing that we are doing, because it is so difficult, is we're pushing for legislation that would require the App Store or the operating system to give that information to apps like ours across the internet.
Oh,
the reason
the information
matters,
on the user themselves?
Yeah.
Whether the work is too little, too late, and why protecting kids online is common sense but difficult in practice. Back after this. You're listening to Squawk Pod from CNBC with Joe, Becky, and Andrew.
Up and Becky, Q.
Meta is announcing a new Instagram campaign and safety features targeting teens to raise awareness about sextortion scams. That's a form of an explicit online blackmail. It's where you convince a teen to send you nude pictures, and then you threaten them that you're going to show their parents, other people that they know in the community, if they don't pay you, if they don't do what you want from there. Joining us right now is Antigone Davis. She is Meta's VP and Global Head of Safety. And Antigone, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's pretty explicit, but why don't you talk about the new moves that you're making today?
Yeah, so this builds on our existing protections for teens and our launch of teen accounts, as well as our ongoing efforts to fight sextortion. But what we're doing now is announcing basically a first ever campaign within the app, an in-app campaign, educational video for teens that tells them what sextortion is, how to spot it, what to do if you're targeted. We're also coupling this with a suite of new features to protect and prevent them from being sextorted.
I mean, it's something you have to worry about with kids everywhere. I've had the conversation with my teenager because it's not just social media. If you have a phone, you've got a camera on it, you can send pictures, people can send you things. But with social media, it adds a whole new layer of allowing strangers who may or may not be who they say they are into you to try and prey on some of these things.
I'm glad to hear that you've talked to your kid about it. I do think it's really important, and part of this campaign is a whole effort with parent creators to give parents the information that they need about what this is, as well as how to talk about it with their teens. Because one of the things that these predators do is that these scammers do is they prey on your shame, and teens don't come forward. And what I want teens to know is it's not your fault. These are adversarial criminals who try to target, who try to trick. They use a lot of sophisticated mechanisms to do that. If you're tricked, talk to your parents or a trusted adult or a friend. There is actually help.
I mean, I will say my son's not on social media. He's 13, and I don't want him out there in that mess. I have talked to him about this because you don't know where it's going to come. If he doesn't have a Roblox account, but you never know where these things are going to come from one way or another. If you're in an online game that you don't even realize as people are coming in and these strangers are out there. I applaud what you all are doing, but I do think it comes a little late. I do think that this is something you guys have been out there for more than 2 decades. You're just now coming to the point where you are identifying nudity pictures that are being sent to teens. You know this is happening. You took off 1,600 people, I think, last week who were a group of people, a gang that you thought were trying to do some of these sexting things to come in. why not more? Why can't we do more? If I forget my password, I have to go in and identify all the pictures of a motorcycle or a street lamp. You can find these things and you can do it. The technology exists.
Yeah, well, I've been at Meta for 10 years, and these have been ongoing efforts. I think what's important to understand here is that these are very adversarial actors, and so we develop protections, and then they, of course, are going to try to get around those protections, and we then develop additional protections. I do think that we are highly focused right now on financial sextortion because there's been a rise of it recently. After COVID, we saw this crime change. But we are listening to parents.
I just mean that from the perspective of, this is an issue. Teens might be receiving or sending sexual pictures, naked pictures. You can identify it with the stuff that you have. I've always kind of gone back to the real world equivalent of this. If we knew that there was a Chuck E. Cheese and that there was one predator who was hanging out in it, we would shut them down. You have 1,600 you kicked off last week. They're probably going to try and get around your new protections and come back in. How do we deal with this more effectively?
Yeah, so when we do know, we take them down, and we do use technology to find, because they do try, as you said, try to come back on, and we use technology to find, for example, if the same phone then tries to come back onto the platform, to block them again. We also have developed additional features. So, for example, to identify potential scammers. So not even people who are actually doing this, but people who may be potentially doing it, and preventing them, for example, following you, blocking them from following, even requesting to follow.
That's what I wanted to ask you about,
yeah.
Which was this idea. Look, I imagine what's happening inside of Meta is a whole question about trade-offs. We can either lock this whole thing down, or the trade-off is going to be that we're going to allow people to have a free flow of information, but if we have a free flow of information, there's going to be some stuff that's going to get through. And the question is whether there are certain either people and or age groups, either self-identified or otherwise, that should be locked down in advance. I mean, I think that is the fundamental question, even with the trade-off being that there are going to be some users, and maybe even a large number of users, who are completely and utterly annoyed because they're going to get entrapped. They'll be trapped by the system that actually misidentifies them. So part of me wants to understand the sort of psychological, philosophical conversation that happens inside Meta about, whether I get trapped. Hopefully I'm not a predator doing anything inappropriate, but somehow I get sort of put in some kind of net for a reason that makes no sense. I would almost prefer that you put innocent people, in a tougher place if you could avoid some of these horrific things from happening. And I want to understand that conversation.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, and actually we do find ourselves erring on the side of caution in this area. So with the launch of teen accounts, for example, we will be putting anybody who is under the age of 18 into these accounts. They have built-in protections. For those who are under 16,
right. Okay, but here's
hold on,
the question.
This is going to answer your question. Just give me 1 second. For those who are under the age of 16, they have to get their parents' permission. As part of this work, we are going to be trying to identify teens who may be lying about their age, teens whose age, so predicting what age they are.
They have to have an ID or something that they show you, or like a school ID even?
People who we predict to be teens who may be adults are going to get trapped in that system. That is okay. We will then ask them to verify, to demonstrate that they're an adult, and we can move them back into an account.
Right.
But the idea here is that we want to use technology to predict there are going to be errors, and you will see that.
Currently, do you do that?
We're working on building that technology.
So
it's complicated to build.
No, I'm not saying it's not complicated to build, but the question is, do you feel like it's fair to say you're late in building it? Meaning, this idea of identifying kids online, or people who are not identifying themselves as the appropriate age, seems like something that you would have thought about a long time ago. This is not a new issue. It may be hard to resolve or not so easy, but when you see that one person is friends with 30 other people who all do identify as 15 years old, all of a sudden, I actually don't think the model becomes that difficult. It becomes difficult on the edges, sure.
Well, so it is actually more difficult than you would think. And no, I don't think we're behind. This is actually a challenge for all of industry. All of industry is facing this challenge. We do already use some of this technology. We are expanding this technology. The other thing that we are doing, because it is so difficult, is we're pushing for legislation that would require the App Store or the operating system to give that information to apps like ours across the internet.
Oh, the information matters, on the user themselves?
Yes.
To verify it?
The reason that matters is because the App Store has this information.
Because they have a credit card.
Yeah. They know it already. We don't have to go through trying to either collect somebody's ID or ask them to provide like a facial selfie. Right. So this is,
and of course, Apple doesn't want to give you that information because they think that you're going to use that information
to then
for advertising or
right.
to use it in some other way, right? And that's the issue.
But there are very simple ways for them to give us information that would not necessarily be any more privacy intrusive. So we only need the age. We don't necessarily need the birthday, for example.
Right, but the age then allows you to turn around and tell said advertiser that they're now part of a different demographic than you might have thought.
By the way, when I
right?
signed up for my Facebook account, I told you how old I was.
Correct.
So you guys should have that information.
We have what you told us, but as a parent,
you're not a child. A child will lie.
Teens may lie.
Parents, not parents may not lie, but the predators may lie.
But you're right.
Sure.
This is one of the reasons we want to do this also at the OS App Store, because that's
But I can understand the App Store saying, do your own homework. You guys created these accounts and you unleashed them. You guys figure it out.
Well, but we deliver them through the App Store, and they indicate to us that they provide safety and security, and that all apps pay a fee to be in that App Store. It is the way, and it is what makes it much simpler for parents. Parents are there. You'd literally be able to say, I don't approve download. Like, for example, you don't want your teen on social media. If you were to try to download that app, you would be in a position immediately to get a notification. Right now, you're not.
I know, but teens are pretty tech savvy and find ways to get around these things, just like predators do. I do think, I appreciate that you guys are looking at this and trying to work this. I appreciate you coming on to talk about it. The one message I would send back is, please have them push faster and harder to make sure they're protecting
as a mom,
kids that are out there.
I am really trying to push it, as is all of our people who work on safety.
Antigone, thank you.
Thank
for
you.
coming in. We appreciate it.
That is Squawk Pod for today. Thank you, as always, for listening. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern to get the smartest takes and analysis from our TV show right into your ears. Follow Squawk Pod wherever you get your podcasts. And if you listen regularly and you like what you hear, we'd love to know. Send us a tweet at Squawk CNBC or write a brief review on Apple Podcasts. If you have feedback or suggestions, let us know that too. That's it. Have a great Thursday. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.